Welcome to District Deep Dive, where we take a look at the history, culture, and political climate of each of Panem's 13 districts. Today, we'll be examining District 1, the wealthiest district in Panem and one of 3 career districts. The bulk of District 1's wealth stems from their capital export, luxury goods, with district citizens manufacturing gemstones, elaborate jewelry, expensive fabrics, and so forth. While the specifics of their production methods are unknown, there are 2 aspects that can be inferred. 1, that a significant amount of their working population likely consists of talented craftsmen, and 2, they have access to technologies the other districts don't, with Katniss making the remark that they possess machines with the ability to press graphite into diamonds. So rather than assemble the raw materials themselves, it's likely District 1 receives exports from all throughout Panem, placing them in this fascinating middle ground of having to turn the products of 11 other districts' suffering into glamour, while never experiencing the luxuries they create themselves. However, that doesn't appear to stop them from trying to, with District 1's children typically being named for their flashiest products. There's Velverine and Cashmere, named for high-quality, expensive fabrics. Facet, named for the cuts on gemstones. Glimmer and Gloss in reference to the literal shine of their goods, and Marvel, no doubt referring to the awestruck look the craftsmen hope to incite within their customers. Yet while these names clearly showcase the pride that District 1 citizens take in their craft and status, the other districts seem to perceive them as gaudy and ridiculous. Despite them gaining the notoriety to be heralded a career district by the 50th Hunger Games, interestingly enough, things weren't always so for District 1, with them being personified as cowards during the 10th. Prior to the start of these games, as the tributes were touring the arena with their mentors, a series of bombs were detonated by rebel forces, creating a crack near the arena's entrance. The District 1 tributes Velverine and Facet, accompanied by the District 2 tributes Sabin and Marcus, seized the opportunity and attempted to flee, only for both to be gunned down immediately by peacekeepers before ever reaching the opening. While the rationale behind their escape attempt initially appears fairly obvious, 2 literal children not wanting to partake in a relatively new government-sponsored horror, interestingly enough, Snow internally remarks their unwillingness to participate has little to do with their physical abilities. Both Velverine and Facet are described as being in decent physical condition, especially in comparison to their typically emaciated peers. Snow even goes so far as to remark that their deaths now drastically elevate his own mentor tribute's chances of winning, Lucy Gray. So rather than fleeing due to lack of physical ability to compete, they flee because they see the games immediately as the atrocities that they are, deciding that potentially dying at the hands of their captors is favorable to death in the arena, creating an almost cruel irony to the fact that only mere generations later their fellow citizens willingly volunteer themselves to partake in the spectacle they died attempting to avoid. So what happened? What transformed District 1 from a district whose tributes would rather die than participate in the games to one whose citizenry eagerly clamored for the right to do so? To answer that, let's examine the factors that likely led to their becoming a career district. Many are under the impression that the career districts have attained the capital's favor through excelling in the games, when in reality, the reason that career districts routinely win is because the capital already favors them. They are specifically and strategically chosen by the capital elite, likely due to them being the districts that pose the largest immediate threat to the capital in the event of an uprising. It's often assumed that the favoritism the capital extends towards District 1 tends to be attributed to the value of their export and the wealth they've subsequently accumulated, with the capital favoring the district they perceive to be most like them. However, a closer examination of Panem's layout hints that the capital's outlook towards District 1 stems not from the value of their export but from the capital's fears of the resentment that export might incite. While District 1 is the wealthiest of the 12, they still by no means have the excess of the capital, or even the means to fully support their own citizenry. They have the ability to ensure their children are generally well fed, but out of their population of 24,000, almost 1,700 still take out tesserae. Despite being surrounded by opulence, there are still 1,700 citizens whose lives are dependent on a meager year's supply of grain and oil. And is there any more effective means of inciting rage in a person than having them handle unfathomable wealth daily while they struggle to properly feed themselves and their families? Given the fact that District 1 surrounds a significant percentage of the capital's land and that they would therefore have the easiest access to it, the capital has tremendous incentive to ensure that tensions never reach a boiling point. And, in conferring a district benefits far beyond that any others receive, the capital also sows discord between the districts, hindering any possible chance of the 12 successfully uniting as one against them, allowing them to effectively kill 2 birds with 1 stone. How exactly District 1 is converted into a career district is uncertain, but its resultant status as such is most likely the product of decades of propaganda. In a deleted scene in The Hunger Games, we actually watch Marvel's interview with Caesar Flickerman, in which he displays an eagerness and readiness to kill rivaling that of the District 2 careers. He views the ability to participate in the games as an honor to strive to achieve, and the fact that he has done so as the culmination of his greatest dream, perceiving them in the way that small children may perceive the glorious battles of fairy tales, as picturesque and noble instead of devastating. This is a startlingly far cry from Velverine and Facet's outlook, who were young enough during their games that at the point of this interview they could theoretically be Marvel's grandparents, meaning that whatever efforts the Capitol undertook were powerful enough to indoctrinate an entire generation. As to how this could happen, while the book informs us that Capitol propaganda is an essential component of the crude educational system existing within each district, there also had to have been additional reinforcement amongst the citizenry themselves. And, if I had to speculate, this is my rough approximation of how exactly that shift would occur. By the Capitol turning a blind eye to District 1 tributes' training efforts, an illegal activity in any non-career district, District 1 tributes drastically increase their odds of winning, and often do. On top of the extra skills they've gleaned from their training, Capitol game makers also take pains to ensure their tributes always receive a memorable entrance during the victory parade, adorning them in jewels and riches to help impress sponsors. This combination works out wonderfully, allowing District 1 tributes to consistently win and for the District 1 citizenry to feel the benefits of that victory, receiving extra food, supplies, and wealth. As the cycle repeats itself, citizens' perceptions of the game start gradually shifting from a punishment to an opportunity, a chance to improve conditions for 24,000 at the expense of 2. And if it's something they'll be forced to endure regardless, is there not power in embracing it head-on? This change, in contingency with the floods of Capitol propaganda the citizens are forced to ingest, ultimately fuels the shift we see, as drastic as it is. That being said, while District 1 does boast its fair share of victors, one of the things that's most notable about the tributes that we encounter throughout the franchise is that they appear to almost balk at the moment it's most important not to. While they are tremendously skilled in combat, in the instances that Katniss and company encounter them, their abilities when put to the test are not nearly as effective as they were in practice. Take Glimmer, for instance, who, when we first encounter her in the games, is romping around in the woods in a manner reminiscent of that of a child at summer camp. If context were completely removed, the ordinary person would assume that her and the other careers were children playing a fabulous game, which it almost seems they are, with them being completely detached from the severity of these circumstances. They are arrogant to the point of negligence, with Glimmer being described as having fallen asleep on guard during the night the careers corner Katniss up a tree. And yet, the moment that tangible danger presents itself, any memory of how to appropriately respond flies out the window. In the book, when Glimmer is attacked by tracker jackers, instead of fleeing towards the lake that her fellow careers do, she uselessly swats at them with her bow while pleading for help. Similarly, in book, when Marvel is confronted with Katniss, he prioritizes attacking the defenseless 12-year-old girl ensnared in a net instead of what is arguably his greatest threat. Even Cashmere and Gloss, former winners, are not impervious to this trait, attempting to launch a sneak attack on a group of tributes who predominantly specialize in long-range weaponry. For all the propaganda that's spread regarding the glory of partaking, District 1 tributes tend to be among the first of the careers to realize the truth, albeit for many, much too late. And yet, despite the decades of propaganda in Capitol favor, in Mockingjay, the people of District 1 are among the first to rebel against and overthrow the Capitol's rules, contrary to many's expectations. Initially, people often find this difficult to rationalize. Where did the district's motivation to rebel lie if they were often among the best treated? The answer is simple. A songbird in a gilded cage is still caged. District 1 may have meager benefits, but its people lack true, uninhibited freedom. And, after witnessing the Capitol violate the core promise of the Hunger Games during the third quarter quell by reaping the victors, the so-called symbols of their compassion and generosity, adding the extra cruelty of reaping a pair of siblings, I would imagine the citizenry would begin to become increasingly cognizant of this fact, knowing the little they enjoy can be yanked away with the flick of a hand. Rather than grovel to their captors' better nature, they seize their freedom for themselves, in a conclusion I find remarkably satisfying for a district often dismissed as being traitorous bootlickers.